Hey everyone, welcome back to Adobe Live. My name is Annika and I'm your host today. I am back here with Tom from TGS Creates. Tom, how are you doing today?
Yeah, great to be back. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. I had a lot of fun for day one with Tom yesterday. If you missed the stream, you can watch all the replays both on Behance and YouTube. And you can also view the stream that was right before us with photographer Daniel Livingstone as he takes you through his post processing workflow for commercial photography in Lightroom Classic and Photoshop. We also have a really amazing curated playlist of past Illustrator Daily Creative Challenges that happen every day this week at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. So make sure to tune into those, challenge yourself with a new prompt each day. Tom was building a tech brand yesterday, and I'm really excited to see what we will come up with today. I think you're going to be working on adding color, making some variations, adding a
Yep.
variety of mockups to your work as well, right?
Yep, that's it. We're going to take everything we formulated in that day one and bring that into assets that you typically present to a client. Look at color, looking at other logo variations, and how to extend that brand beautifully across different assets in Photoshop.
That's brilliant. I want to say hi to the chat before we actually jump into it. I see Jack, I see Paco, I see Carol, Wade. Thank you all so much for joining
Nice to
us.
see
Let me
everyone.
know if you're, yeah, people are coming back to see you on day two, and I'm really excited. It
Appreciate
was
it.
an incredible stream yesterday, so make sure to watch the replay if you missed it. But Tom, do you want to introduce yourself? Give us a little bit brief about your portfolio and briefly explain what we did on day one and dive into day two from there.
Yeah, fantastic. My name's Tom, and I'm a logo designer, brand designer based in the UK. So I work with clients to define their identity for their business, get them into the direction they need to get to, and building brands with purpose. As you can see from my website, this is where you can see a bit more about me and a bit of my work and what I do, and inquire to work with me. And building brands with purpose is literally the mantra I stand by, because it keeps me aligned with what I'm doing and why I do it for the clients, is to uncover what it is about them that's unique, whether that's through what they do, what they sell, who they are as a people, and through that process uncovering something unique about them and adding that to the identity system, to the branding, to the icon, throughout everything, because that's how we can differentiate, be unique, not be replicated, and stand out, and actually have something they can stand by and be proud of. So this is my website. You can hear, see and watch a video about me, introducing myself, and I'm on social media where I'm sharing content, a bit about the live stream yesterday, and a little snapshot of some of the branding work I do. I like to put these at a glance posts out. We allow people to kind of see, okay, we formulate the identity, but this is how it can touch all these different aspects of the company, excuse me, when they're on the packaging, on the banners, down to stickers, little bags. And again, look at those geometric logos, using geometric shapes, snapshot. Thank you. A few of the brands I've created in the past. I'll just touch on another one now.
Yeah, Carol in the chat is saying the quantity of sketches shown yesterday was quite impressive. So
I appreciate
we
that.
love seeing the process. Yeah.
Yeah, so I really like to create sometimes simplistic marks. The majority of the things I like to do, because I think they extend beautifully. They scale down nicely, as we can see. There's something special about this mark because it represents a business, but in a unique way, and it scales beautifully across vehicles, across social posts. And that's type of brand I like to do.
Very cool. Yeah. Let's talk about what we did yesterday a little bit briefly, and then we can jump into day two.
Fantastic. So yesterday we started building. Where's the PDF? Here we go. So we started to look at building a brand identity system for a company called Riser, a fictional company. They're an app. They're an online platform for people that are keen to work on their goals, but not through just educational content provided, through guided support through educational content and in-app purchases to work with mentors. So it's an app that really wants to focus on, from a message point of view, we're here to get you to your goal. So from that as a standpoint, we'd have that on the discovery call. And yesterday we discussed this about how I go through a process of going through the questionnaire, allowing those questions to uncover everything about the business. And again, those questions aren't important. They are important, but it's actually more important about what they say, because they'll all articulate things in a different way. And it's about finding these special moments in that conversation, that natural conversation about they'll say, and we can say, okay, that's interesting. Let's take these key words or these key sentences, and let's take note of these and formulate this vision for who they want to be, and have that, influence that identity system down the line. So we talked about having their mission loud and clear in your face, understanding and knowing who their audience is, throughout its process, a key thing I like to do is, as me and Annika touched on yesterday, is that word association is already starting to build up throughout it. I'm looking at different keywords at every step, even with how they review their indirect and direct competitors, the things they're saying, because that's formulating the direction. Okay, they like these bits, they don't like this. That's great. I can see where you want to be. And then the sketch work is where we moved on to looking at those words and not stopping at the surface, but looking deep at those words and saying, okay, we're starting here with words like ambition, but what is further than ambition? What does ambition really mean? I do that by Googling these words, looking at the definitions, and that again creates unique pairings, unique ways to explain what would riser be, getting up early, getting after your goals, but is there a way to explain that? And through the vision board of looking at these words, we uncovered that it's about taking that first step, moving forward, the energy of a brand. This is the type of brand they want to be in, this educational space, but almost disruptive, of something that's more focused on being interesting, being a lifestyle brand, being something that people are attracted to and want to be a part of. So that's what all that process is about, really creating that vision and understanding the client through their conversation. And then we moved on to talking about the sketch work and getting scrappy with the sketch work and not allowing that to stop your process. Just get rough with it. Get all those ideas out, get the bad ideas out, moving on to what the client then, after you've done your sketches, finds interesting. And that was something I touched on, that I don't like to look at this first. Obviously, I don't want to interrupt my own ideas. So I allowed to look at this after. And then we moved on to now into Illustrator and taking those sketches and looking at those further.
Let's take a look. I do want to mention that at the 90-minute mark, we do have an artist spotlight. So if you have never submitted your profile or someone that inspires you, make sure to go right above the chat on Behance. We have an artist spotlight tab. You can put in your work or someone else that inspires you, and we can highlight them maybe in a future stream. I also want to say that if you're joining us live both on YouTube and Behance, make sure to say hi, pop in the chat, and if you have any questions for Tom, make sure to put in there and I'll communicate them back to you, the answers.
Brilliant. Thanks for joining us, everyone. I appreciate it. Yeah, so we jumped in the artboard yesterday and I touched on the importance of having everything that summarized from that document on the left-hand side, to keep that front of mind, to keep thinking about the words, the brand purpose, the target audience, the possible taglines that you've formulated from the conversation. These all inspiring your direction. And then we moved on to exploring in more depth the types of sketch work that I formulated beforehand. And in a typical process is what I'd like to do is just get as many ideas out and moving on to refining that idea now. You're choosing that idea and saying, okay, in a not an overly detailed sketch, but in a more detailed sketch, start to say, okay, I believe this is going to translate better in Illustrator, because sometimes you'll take in some of the really raw ones and then you'll think, hang on a second, this isn't working. So as a little step to save a bit more time, just doing a little bit of extra refinement and then reaffirming things with, put some words around it and say, this does make sense. Sometimes it helps to see these words and say to yourself, okay, I believe this now actually. And then we can bring it in. And yesterday we started to build this shape from what was a sketch. And we saw the evolution from the left side. Is it the left or the top one? I think it's replicated from adding some parallel lines and lines that had relationships between each other that helped create a marker we have on the right hand side that was had more momentum moving forward. It looked more pleasing on the eye because of these lines all being matched up in the same direction. So it's a tedious process. Hopefully it was still enjoyable to watch. Fingers crossed it was. But these small details really do matter long term for when you start to apply this to, when we start to scale this up, you're going to notice these odd quirks in, say, the original logo. A great idea, but we need to make sure they're ironed out. So we did that, and quickly looking at what's this look inverted, what's it look outlined, what's it look with a quick brand pattern is, and that process is really kind of flipping upside down and seeing it from different angles just to see if there's any irregular shapes or anything that could be a problem moving forward. So it's nice to see these things. And each step and each time you keep formulating these experiments through the processes, you kind of give yourself a bit more security and a bit more confidence in the design that you're doing. So again, it spurs you on to move on to then type then to support it, and just looking at
reincorporating the concept and going back to the drawing board like you were doing yesterday was honestly really impressive part of your workflow. And it actually enforces the fact that this is where I started with, and this was a vision board, and now we're going on the right path. I feel like that's something that a lot of creatives kind of lose direction with when they're first starting out, and they're like, "Oh, this doesn't look like my mood board." So if you're watching, the stream is for you.
Brilliant. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I do like to try and go a few steps head forward, and even have to come back a bit. It's nice just to kind of test early, pull back, and then you seem to just keep in the flow of that creativity. So yeah, then yesterday we started to look at different typography, again, getting them down, allowing if there's initial spark there, just go for it and get it down there, because it's what's on the canvas that you start to then see what works and what doesn't against each other. So again, it's stopping this overanalyzing each individual font. You're just saying there's something about that's interesting. Okay, something like that. There's obvious ones on the surface that you can say that doesn't work. But when you start seeing two together, you go, hang on, I thought that worked isolated, but now I see it next to this one. Actually, this is more in line with what I think would work for the brand. So we I think we had a little bit of a discussion and chat about what font was working. People were kind enough to say, we're kind of like number 2 or number 3. And then through looking at the anchor points of the logo, we came across arching the right hand side, and these accidents happen that move the logo forward. That's it's almost like we've gone back to a little bit of experimentation through looking at the logo.
Accidents.
Yeah, happy accidents, they happen, and then they make you question, well, could this support or add to the message of the brand and what we're trying to achieve? And for this, everyone kind of voted up that they preferred the top one, as it seemed to go with this initial font with the curves. There were still sharp lines in the legs of the letters. So we modified that brand, altered some of the font, we then moved forward, and I think we got to this stage now where we had we're almost looking at saying, okay, well, here's our mark now. We're happy with the font, happy with the type it supports it, we're happy with the shape. And I dropped in a quick image to support this. Almost, again, it's the last step to say, okay, we're now looking to make this come to life now with some mock-ups. That's what we're looking to do today.
Love that. Yeah, I also love the movement in the font that you chose as well, and that you made it your own. So it's not just a generic font, it's just a type that you customized for the brand itself. Ryan in the chat loves the flip pattern, and he also says, my favorite is the one without the back of the R. So yeah, I feel like we all really are loving the process, and we're excited to jump into day 2 and see what you come up with.
Appreciate it. Yeah, we'll crack on now. So what I'm going to do now then is good job now to grab this marker. Now we're happy with it.
Yeah. Do you ever use the libraries to save your marks and share that with the clients, or does that? How does
the libraries in the software?
Yeah, the Creative Cloud libraries.
See, that was a tutorial that I literally saw about 3 weeks ago. Someone saying, "Do you ever use libraries in Illustrator and Photoshop?" And I was like, mind blown. So I'm not going to sit here and say that's what I do. I don't, but it's something that I've seen. Excuse me, and it's fantastic. I need to, again, as we spoke about shortcuts yesterday, it's such a quicker way of grabbing those assets and allowing people to see. So I've stayed in my old school ways in terms of dealing with files, but that's something I'm definitely going to look at. It's fantastic. If anyone's not looked at that, absolutely start looking at how to use those libraries in Photoshop and Illustrator. It's brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. You can use those Creative Cloud libraries with every Adobe Suite application.
Yeah.
All of them have support, and you can also use it with Adobe Express, which is a web app. So not just one application, you can use it all across and even share it with your clients. So I feel like it's a very good asset, even when sometimes it can be cumbersome when working with new clients who've never used it before, but the process is pretty seamless. So a quick call should be good to teach them how to use it and maybe familiarize them with the UI. Yeah, highly recommend it.
So are there any questions coming in the chat right now, or that anyone wants me to answer?
Not yet. Angel in the chat says font works so well with the mark. Devin says they weren't here yesterday, but the animation options to make this R look like the bottom half of a body running is insane. They also say left side has an extended leg, right as like it's about to push off and start running. Yeah, that is the idea. Everyone's really excited about seeing what you have in store for us. I'm really excited. I learned a lot from your process yesterday, so I'm really excited what you come up with. That's what I really love about hosting amazing creatives here, because there's tons of different ways to do the same thing, and learning from a creative who's been doing this for so long, and getting to learn from your process, you always find something that's they're like bits and pieces that are different.
Yes.
And I'm just really fortunate to be able to experience this live.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's great community, and it's great to say
Yeah,
everyone has a different way of doing their process. No right or wrong. There's the
absolutely.
foundational things we all do that are kind of similar, but it's really nice to see what other people are doing, and how they make it their own, and taking what you think's right for you. Sometimes there's nothing wrong really, but you might say, yeah, I've got a better approach in my way, or there's the way I like to work. Ultimately, if
Yeah,
as long as the ideas are right, and we've got a good process behind us, and we're solving problems for clients, because that's what's important that we do. We make great marks and identity systems, and I think we just take and learn from each other, and say, I'll take a bit of that strategy to this and add it to my own
yeah,
process, and yeah, it's fantastic.
absolutely.
So
So
at the
what are you
moment,
doing now?
so at the moment, I'm just looking to confirm that we've got different versions of the logo, so like a horizontal and a stacked logo. Just
Mhm.
looking at the mark, just to get a clear
Do you
vision of what.
always do you always create responsive logos, or is that something that comes naturally to you, or do clients ask you to do it? How does that
Yeah,
work?
that's something I always like to do, definitely, because the more the flexibility they've got to stay consistent but in different ways.
Yeah,
If they were just stuck with this logo, what if we're going to work on a fav icon, or we're going to work on a smaller, on a square tile? If they've got to if they've got to advertise on a big wide banner, and great, we can scale this one on huge, but how well is that going to work on its own? So if they've got consistent brand with different star marks, then fantastic, they can use them in different ways. There's more to work with.
that. Yeah, responsive logos are really, really helpful, especially to create that brand language around it is also
Yeah.
really important.
So I'm just going to look at adding a tagline. And then we're going to jump onto color.
Nice. Yeah, I'm intrigued about your color process. We touched a little bit on that yesterday, so I'm excited to see how you choose color. Mm.
So I'm just going to centralize that. Add some padding between the letters.
Nice.
When we're adding a supporting tagline, we have to think about how this mark is going to work next to it. So
Yeah.
I like to offer clients with options that they can use to market that business. So it's not just a logo. There's one with a statement with it. There may be
Yeah.
a URL under it. Sometimes they want ways to sell their business ultimately. So we can give them more ways to do that
Yeah.
through the variations of the mark. And great, they're happy because they can start to get their mission seen.
Yeah.
A lot of people jump to their website.
I love that. Stuart in the chat was also talking about making probably the logo mark flush with the sizing of the font, but I see that you're adding you're already thinking ahead and you're already
Yeah,
doing
so
it.
for this is just getting that aligned with the floor of there.
Yeah.
We could also do that, here, but there's a possibility that it's conflicting with the other R, so that creating a bit of
Yeah.
hierarchy between the
Yeah.
word and the symbol, so it's clearly identifiable. That's the symbol, and then that's
Yeah.
the supporting font. But absolutely, yeah. Again, it's a bit like the symbol. What relationships can we make with each of the assets? If that's there, then what's that mean in relation to the text? So you're
Yeah.
using those guides to see what's that mean against that. What's mean that I like to bring in the tagline slightly in from the top. Again, create a little bit of hierarchy for the name riser, for the tagline just below it. Yeah, that's another lockup for the client.
Very cool.
Invert this.
I love that even with the font and the tagline, we can even use that as like a horizontal logo mark somewhere.
Yeah, you mean just the font on its own?
Yeah, just the
Yeah, and
font
that,
on its own.
yeah, and that's it. You know, you could have a, if say if
Yeah,
that was scaled down in the corner of a social post,
yeah,
that could sit there, and then this mark can then work on its own independently. You know,
exactly.
overlaid an
Yeah,
image, and the brand's still on point and consistent.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. Ryan in the chat says this is turning out so good.
So it's just allowing us
Love
now
that.
to summarize what we've got. Appreciate the comments and everyone that's watching at the moment. So what I like to do
Yeah,
is, just a document is when it comes to color, is if I can, there's great websites like Adobe Color and looking at inspiration for color palettes, but a bit like not being swayed a certain way. Sometimes I like to go on my intuition about colors in terms of, okay, what would this brand, trying to think with the brand DNA first. Obviously, if
yeah,
that comes into contact with a direct competitor and they were using a certain color tone, we have to then think, okay, this isn't going to work because we're going to look completely the same, or people aren't going to identify with us against the competitors. But what I like to do is actually use real world images to say, okay, what can we use from the color picker? Is there something here with this softer pink color
yeah,
going up to the light blues? Is that going to create a right tone, right message in terms of this rise of this getting after your goals, getting up early, as we spoke about
yeah.
before? So just using the color picker now to extract colors. And
Oh, I love those pastels. Very cool.
yeah, look great. Yeah, and they might work for the brand, they might not. Uh,
Yeah.
but this is
Love that it's all a bit of an experimentation at this point.
absolutely at this stage. Yeah, absolutely. You know,
Yeah.
we're just going through the motions and seeing what works, what doesn't. And I put a tutorial out for this on my Instagram. But it's a nice way of creating color palettes in Illustrator is to get two colors either side. If I can remember where it is now, is it in blend? Yeah, blend,
It is. Yeah. I love that trick.
and then go to object. I don't know where it's located now. Where is that part of the?
What would you like to do with this?
It's the staggered steps.
Yeah, if you just go to blend and blend options,
Yeah, I
that'll do
thought it
the
was in
trick.
blend options. Yeah, blend options. That was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you can go
So
to
you go into specified steps, and you can hit the amount of steps between that.
yeah.
Go to object, expand those, then object and group. This allows you then, you've got your kind of primary colors and you've got sub colors to work with that brand.
Yeah.
And it's a great way to find the medium color for those colors if you're working the gradient, or you've got content with either hero colors for your website, but maybe there's some kind of sub content sections that you want to use. So it's a nice way. And what we can do is we can take those colors and just add them straight in, even as a group. Actually, we can grab all of these, go to the folder, give it a name, and they drop into Illustrator. So it's a great way of creating color palettes out of images,
Very cool.
and just keep stacking them up, and then they're there to use throughout the project.
Yeah. I had a question. Carol also had a question in chat. What do you do to make the tagline legible? Did you change the kerning of the font for that?
Yeah, so just the kerning, the spacing between the letters, and
Yeah.
just sizing matters.
Yeah.
Again, it depends where it's at, the application of it. If that's going to go really small, we're not going to worry about having that tagline in there. It might be something that has to go on the side of the logo. It
Yeah.
depends on the application, but that could certainly be put onto a Facebook banner somewhere. So it's the head of the website. So yeah, it's about having that versatility and staying consistent.
Mm-hmm. Really nice. Laura says blend options, and Angel says they had no idea you can do that in Illustrator. Yeah, there you go.
I couldn't believe when I saw it myself. It's not my finding. I found this tutorial a while back, and it blew my mind.
Yeah. There's always something about Illustrator that blows my mind. Every single time.
Just doing a bit of test work at the moment.
Mm-hmm. So intriguing to see.
it's good to see as well, as I said before, with all the process, it is really good just to enjoy the process of testing, even if it feels wrong and it feels awkward. It's like that what's going wrong for you on paper, let's say, if it's not going your way, is actually formulating the right way. So there's something nice about this. Is gradients going to work there's arguments about gradients and logos. Is it going to stay contemporary for a long time? Is it going to be dated? I think gradients can work as a sub color sometimes. So if this gradient is an issue, sometimes the client will be dead against it. Sometimes you'll feel that this isn't right for the brand and where it's going to be applied. If it's going to be printed a lot, the company's going to be printed a lot. Gradients can be a struggle to print. So we always have to think, okay, we need a dominant color really, because this is going to go on things that don't allow for that gradient. So it is just about understanding where it's going to be seen. Maybe it's about, maybe you decide that you have two primary colors for the logo and you have a gradient color to support other efforts, maybe when you're doing some digital work or when it extends beautifully across a social post. I don't know, but that's how you've got to look at it. You've got to keep remembering application as well as how good it looks. So
absolutely,
and bringing it back to the brief already, look at these colors. Is it energy? Is it creating the right tone for the brand? Is it a bit too soft? Is it a bit too nice and pleasant for a brand that's about getting after it and reaching your goals? It might not be. I'm not feeling like these work from just looking at them.
Yeah, it's good to show options that you won't use as well while you're showing your process. I love that you went through the whole process and you realize that, hey, this does not work for me, and that's how you do it in real life as well.
Absolutely. It has to be done. Definitely.
Yeah.
So just looking at another.
While using color though, do you also feel like there might be some cultural things that you would like to think of, or if the brand is global, is there something that you look at or something you consider?
The cultural side of things for the businesses. It's not something I've ever thought about actually with branding. With the companies I've worked for, it's not something I've ever thought about. Is it something you've thought about in your own work?
Yes. So when I've had the chance to work with a global client, I feel like that's something that's really relevant, because red in general is considered very, very danger like, but red can also be auspicious in certain countries. So it's always like a slippery slope when you're working with color when it comes to like global brands as well. Because I feel like it's always interesting to work with color around that.
So how do you navigate that then in terms of when you're branding? What kind of just the amount of research you do on that country? Is that, where do you start with something like that?
That is part of it. I would research. This all comes in the initial first 2 weeks, where I would research the client, the competitors, think about where they're established and where they want to be established, maybe 2 years down the line or 3 years down the line, maybe when they go global. And then think about how culture can play into what colors you choose or what fonts you choose, or can it be offensive to a community in a region, perhaps, and how well it can perform.
That's great. Yeah. That's good insight. That is. I like that. That's brilliant.
I love these colors though. I think these are more dynamic than the pastel color palette that we had.
Absolutely. And just thinking about that, getting up in the morning and getting after your goals, and I'm just trying to find, is there a story in this? Is there reasons for it? And is there a bit more energy behind it? Certainly more energy in that color. So we're just working through it and having a look at even the full color. But again, gradients can sometimes be an issue. So we'd have to look at across these maybe. Okay, if we take this brand here. I think the reason why I'm looking at gradient, I suppose, because there is some kind of energy about that with this whole moving forward that creates, but it need to be a supporting color. I've lost half the logo there. 1 second.
So what's been one of your favorite projects or clients to work with? How do you define an ideal project for you in terms of branding?
One of the best projects I worked with. I've really enjoyed doing work with the Edge. That's a client I work with, the Edge Human Performance Lab.
Okay.
Yeah, they're deal with athletes in the boxing world, F1, and they just we formulated a core identity system, clean minimalistic logo, and then everything from there was creating like these cool brand patterns that could support their marketing collateral to celebrate. But their space was there's lots of people in that space doing human performance, but it was cool to do something that was different in that space. So there's like a purpley pink vibe to the brand, really modern. It was attractive to the athletes, but we managed to make it still professional and accessible, and a business that people want to work with, because they're dealing with high profile athletes. So you needed to cater for that. We couldn't go too crazy that would make people think, okay, is this really for where I want to put my athletes and put them through this support network of great practitioners? So it was a really rewarding one to do. They're all rewarding. Again, that's not sitting on the fence statement. I really do enjoy every project to do, and every one of them becomes like a little trophy for me. Like, that I worked that process. I really enjoyed that. That was great working with even with the Jimmy John stuff. That was like the skateboarder Gen Z brand. With even the server company with Vlox, holding data on paper, is that as attractive really? But we were able to make that brand attractive, and it's just really enjoyable. Dive in and trying to find those unique things about them, and getting to know the founders, and seeing their face after would light up when they're like, wow, okay, we're really happy with this, and we're gonna do new things, better things, and it's really rewarding. Every project's rewarding.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I was actually looking at the Edge again. And it does convey whatever you mentioned. So I love that.
Thank you.
Also love all these mockups. They're so realistic.
They're great. Mockups. Fantastic.
Brilliant.
Do you use them a lot in your work when presenting to a client?
I do use them, depending on, not in the first iteration, maybe perhaps just to show the concept. Really depends on how we're going with it. Like we were talking about yesterday, how many concepts a brand designer probably shows to their clients. And when there's more than one concept is when I would ideally not choose to do mockups. But if it's just one strong concept, I would show usage as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Love that.
Do you ever make your own mockups?
I have done in the past, but nothing too complex. I actually did a tutorial on that as well, where you can get a simple device mockup, and you can actually create a smart object, and then tweak that onto like a device screen or something. Then when you click on the smart object, it means that your image pops in, nice square. Then you save it out, and it lands back there. So it's actually quite easy to actually make simple device mockups. Some of them are quite complex. So that's why I lean on kind of resources like Adobe Stock or Envato Elements. So
love that. Yeah. Smart work.
Let's try something a bit more redder than this.
So I'm really curious about this, because I feel like a lot of the emerging creators maybe not think about it or know about it, but don't know where to go look for it. But how do you ensure that a logo you're creating has not been used before?
A lot of research after, once you've formulated your idea, start looking online. And sometimes you'll land on a great idea after the sketch work. As I say, I like to do my sketch work, go through the scrappy ideas and land on a great idea. Then I start to look across, portfolio websites of other branding on Behance, on Pinterest, on Dribbble. You're not going to spot everything, but you try and do your best you can to look and see if there is something there. And that's why I feel leaning into something that's as unique as possible for the client and their business, that you'll tend to not find something that's too similar. If you've not been influenced by the outside world and you're focusing on their individual business and their individual view of that business, this business might not have wanted to go, with another brand designer would have done Rise completely different. They might not have thought about the step forward. and that's fine. And we do all things different depending on what we think's right through our process. But by going through my process, I found my unique angle for that business. So hopefully I find that that's got me a unique mark. That's my approach for trying to
absolutely
almost avoid that early on.
Yeah, and with the amount of sketches that you've shown us that you do, I'm sure that nobody's ever gotten to the point where it's even similar to what you create. So that's brilliant. Get all the ideas out that people have already thought about.
That's it.
In the first 10 ideas.
So do you
yeah. So I know you started with a transition about freelance. I'm sorry, I'm asking too many questions. I'm just
No, I love it. No, please.
Yeah, we were talking about, for anyone who's just joining us today on day 2, we were talking about how Tom transitioned from an agency job to a freelance job. So was it ever like you sending cold emails to clients? What was your strategy behind finding clients, or did the clients find you? How did that work out in your process?
Yeah, so on the day I decided I was going self-employed, got my laptop, and on LinkedIn I started to just reach out to people that were mutual to the type of industry that I was already working in. So because I was working in the events industry, I started reaching out to people that were already connected, that I knew were in similar businesses, or at least could vouch for the place I worked at. You know, they knew that I worked there before. They knew of that business. So there's a trust element, because it's not always the best designer that's at any time of your career that gets picked. It's actually the one that's the most trusted. So your goal is really how do I get seen as the most trusted versus someone else? And sometimes it's just showing up on social media. That's a key factor that I started showing up and just getting my face out there, and starting small with social posts. Started engaging with people, saying, hi, you know, I've gone self-employed. And then from that, old staff from companies start to see that and start to say, well, hang on a second. When that moment arises that they think, oh, I really need someone, actually, you'll become front of mind because you allowed yourself to be seen. It's difficult to put yourself out there and make those kind of knock on the door and say, hi, you know, I used to work here, I'm doing this now. But if you can build up the courage to do that, you allow opportunities. No guarantee, but there's actually, you allow for that, you allow for fate, I suppose, to take it into its own hands then. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, that makes sense. I love that you mentioned that. Stuart in the chat also says that, do you ever get web designers and animators for creating extended assets once a brand gets over the line to maybe offer a full branding package? Because there might be some clients who don't know where to start on redesigns of websites or animation.
Yeah, so I focus on the front end side of web design. That's something I do after, if the client looks at after the rebrand, let's get the website, get all that good stuff into the website. So, and I actually work with an external development team that support me in the UK. So they're a great team, and Ben and the team from their company. And you know, I'll just send over my design ideas. We'll work on what's the best solution. Different clients want different websites and different formats. And working with Ben and their team, I focus on bringing that brand into that and infusing that into the site, and their guidance through some of the technical side of things. So yeah, web is what I offer, and if the client wants it, I say, look, you know, I've got this external team that supports me, the UK based, they're trusted, and I just hand over and liaise, and we have this have these meetings together as a collaboration between 3 people: the company, myself, and then the web development company. And we've probably got about 15 websites live together over the course of it. So yeah, it's been a good partnership, and that's another thing as a strategy for a generalist designer, a logo designer, whatever, an animator. Try and team up with people that need your expertise, because they can be a channel for you, for guiding you, giving you more clients. You know, building relationships, great for support. I've spoken to other people and businesses that aren't like my business, but for advice on, you know, what's it like doing this? How have you come across this? How have you retained more clients? And people have been there and done it. You know, don't sit there and put your head down and overthink everything. Sometimes the answers are just there if you just put your hand out and ask.
Absolutely.
So just build that network.
What's the worst that could happen? You just won't get a response.
That's it. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I absolutely agree with the collaboration over competition, because we're all humans in the end and we've all been through this. So
Yeah.
if you just ask, I feel like it would be much, much easier. And this also stems from like people feeling the imposter syndrome, and also creatives thinking how to price their work, because
Mm.
I would feel awkward asking another creative how you price your work. But I actually sent a message to someone this week, and I'm like, hey, I got this opportunity and I know you've done something like this before. So would you be able to or open to have a conversation about your pricing? And the
Yeah,
worst that
absolutely.
can happen is they don't respond to me. But if
Yeah,
I never ask, I will never know.
sure. Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
And it's great
Yeah.
when you hear what other people are doing. It gives you the confidence to step forward, because it is nerve-wracking to make these
Yeah.
bold decisions, especially if you work remotely. A lot of people are doing that now. If you're being freelance and you're starting out, you're trying to make decisions and better yourself. It's hard to get out your own way sometimes. So when you speak to others and you hear about them, you're like, okay, I'm not alone here. Other people are dealing with clients, and they're having these
Yeah.
same negotiations, same conversations. And it's just that
Yeah.
conversation with someone else similar to you. It makes you go, I'm not crazy. I'm not on my own. And I
Yeah.
can do this too. And I can offer this price, or,
Yeah.
sometimes you have to start there. So yeah, get out there and get asking people, network with everybody, tell everybody what you do as much as possible as a creative. And I know it can be difficult there's a stereotype that a lot of creatives are introverts, and maybe that's true. But the more you can get yourself out there, start small steps with social media content. Uh, yeah, get your voice heard and seen, and good things will come your way long term.
Absolutely.
So I've landed on
Angel in
this.
the chat.
Yep.
Yeah, with the pricing, Angel has a question related to that. Angel would
Yep.
like to know the charging and time process. How do you know when to charge by the hour or when to charge by the project?
For an individual, it may be the right time for you to start with to go with the hourly rate for a foot in the door of the company. It depends on your confidence and the point. How much you've got in your bank right now to keep you supported. There's so many factors, moving parts to this. So for ease of getting in the door, a lot of people know that structure of hourly rate. So
Yeah.
sometimes there's a better approach to go hourly. Find an hourly rate you're happy with, you're comfortable with, going with that to get your foot in the door. But long term, actually, there's benefits to refining your process and pricing your work based on that cost upfront for what you do, because then once you know your process, you know how long it takes, you know what it costs. The client can see the upfront cost, and then there's strength behind your offering then, because you can there's just more belief in your offering when you're dealing with these clients. They know what they're buying for what price, and you can offer multiple packages once you refine your processes. But at the start, if you've not got a defined package of what you're offering, hourly rate's great, because you can just say, look, I want to be here to support you. There's great opportunities there to be somebody's support long term. So do hourly rate when it's right. If you can, start to formulate your process and the things you want to sell as a creative, and package those up and start selling that solution to a client for a set price.
Yeah, that's great advice.
What should we do now then? We're going to move on to so I'm happy with these colors. 3D tools come up.
Oh, yeah. Everyone accidentally presses it by mistake, the perspective grid. I love that. And if you just hit escape, it goes away.
That's
And
it.
yeah. One of the Illustrator quirks I always love. We're about 45 minutes into the stream, and I love that you've already like made all the color lockups as well, showed us and talked about your process so much more in detail. If you have any questions and you're watching this on YouTube or Behance, let us know, pop them in the chat, and I will ask Tom.
So what I like to do now is I'm looking at the colors, I'm looking at the mark, I'm happy with the mark, I'm happy with the colors we're going for now. I think what I wanted to do is have a gradient available to you. I think there's an energy behind that, and there's something we can do with that long term. But we need to make sure we've got a color that we can use. So using that technique of the blend tool and creating a series of color stamps that we can add into the color palette. The happy medium color is this kind of orangey, blood orange, blood red color. It's full of energy. I think it's vibrant. And I think it's when we're working with applications that don't allow gradient, this is going to really support those efforts and means we can be versatile with that gradient. We can go for a flat block color, monochrome style.
Yeah.
We know we've got that flexibility and it's going to work. It stays on brand, but we've got the options to move between all colors.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. Let's copy this, move this over. I'm going to jump into Photoshop now.
Let's do it. Are we going to be creating mockups?
Yeah, so mockups, and I'm interested in just what I like to do is like a marketing preview. So I like to test out what would a quick advert look like for something like this, and see how well the brand extends, how well that scales up, scales down. So we just launch Photoshop now. I've got a document set up.
Very cool.
So we could look to work with two of these images. So what I like to do is call a marketing preview. It's basically saying, okay, what can we do with this brand now? Let's just confirm that we've not just got a mark that sits in the corner, that we can do something dynamic with it. And this is why I favor doing simplistic logos, because I feel like they scale up beautifully, they scale up easily, they scale down, they can wrap around images. And this is a technique I like to do with all my brands and saying, okay, it could be a product here, it could be a shaker, it could be a mobile phone, but how do we bring our brand now into that environment of that industry? And as you see with Nike or other companies, they've got their athlete, they've got their individual on there, but how do we integrate this brand in a different way, not just putting a logo in the corner, but in a cool way? And this is a simple technique that I've used time and time again.
Very cool. Yeah. Dan in the chat has a question.
Yes.
With regard to color, do you start with a Pantone reference, or knowing that the client probably won't require spot color, go with CMYK?
Absolutely. Yeah. You want to get all these things ironed out in terms of the CMYK. Is it going to work for RGB? The Pantone colors. This is in those questions. Listen to the application. If you've got a company that's completely digital and you know for full well it's completely digital, and they're not looking to do that, any kind of print work, you could be bold enough to say, let's just go for the RGB. But if a good practice would be to focus and future-proof these long term and say, look, okay, have we got a Pantone to fall back on? Have we got and sometimes it is a slight off color when it comes to print, but on print it works in the real world, because sometimes you'll have these you'll have a flyer printed in the brand colors and you go, this just doesn't work. And this is why you need to check it first off, before you get to that stage. And the process for branding is so in depth. There's so much we can do. But that's a great question, and certainly you should be checking these things. Absolutely.
Yeah. Are we changing colors on the image now?
Yeah. So we're just lowering the opacity of the image, putting an overlay image. Putting an overlay of dark on top of the image. Grabbing the selection tool. This is great. It just selects the subject now.
Yeah.
Still, the pen tool for cutting out is fantastic for precision, but for the purposes of this, the time on here, and sometimes you can have a good enough cut, but you have to go and refine it. But for the purpose of this, fantastic tool. And for quick social posts, the quick selection tool is brilliant.
Absolutely, yeah. I love the object selection as well that was added last year. Also does a pretty great job. Especially when there's a great contrast between the subject and the background, it does work brilliantly.
Absolutely.
Stuart in the chat.
Go
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm happy. Stuart got a question.
Stuart was just adding on to what we're talking about pricing, and they say work out your living costs, how much you need to live, and then break down to weekly, daily, or hourly, and that will tell you what to charge in the early days.
That's great. Yeah, great advice. Yeah, great advice.
Yeah.
When the doc appears, we'll go back into Photoshop. Yeah, so I'm going to use pixels just for the purpose of this to speed things up.
Yeah.
When you're using assets like this, if you can use smart objects, that means they'll scale better. You haven't got to worry about what you're doing after. A lot more flexibility then if you have the smart objects, and it's non-destructive. If we scale this up and down now, there'll be pixelation.
Yeah. I want to welcome everyone into the chat. I know there's a lot of new folks joining in. So welcome, Sean. I want to say hi to Dan, Kieran. Hi, welcome to the stream. And if you're just joining us, we're here with Tom from DGS Creates. And Tom is working on this really exciting tech brand. We've been working since yesterday. So if you missed day one, make sure to go watch the replay. And we're almost about 1 hour into today's stream. And Tom is now creating mockups.
Great. Yes, if we press the command on the keyboard, then click in there, we get an out selection of the thing we already selected. Sorry, cut out the mask from before. Go back to our layer on top now of that brand pattern. Press the clipping mask, layer mask, sorry. And then if we ever experience this, we just press Command and I. So I know these commands. I have to look down and think, is it Command and I? Remind myself. I know these things from impulse, but then you kind of think, is that the command for this? So you press Command and I, and then you look, you've got this, you've been able to extend this mark in a new way and create a new message. And just from seeing this, there's a directional thing about going after your goals, moving forward. This has all been added to that mark. And now that mark's even working for us now when we're adding it in and wrapping it around assets. If we didn't have all these things and it was, say, a more upright mark, we couldn't integrate this into this vision, into this artwork. So you can start to see how focusing on that identity and that symbol first with great rationale and great meaning, then it starts to make everything else a lot easier, because you can create really dynamic pieces of artwork and campaigns for promoting your business.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. The inverting the mask is always a great trick. Sorry about my throat. So do you show your clients these social assets when you're working with them on the first iteration, or when it's just the first time you're showing the concept?
Yes, when I show the concept at the end, there'll be mock-ups showcasing all of these things. This is my way of helping them see the vision for the brand and how it can move forward. That we haven't just got the mark, that's actually going to work in a social graphic. That we can get excited about what this mark can do. It's not just on a white page, there's your logo. It's actually saying, look, we can do these fantastic campaigns, we can do these things around athletes or around people working, depending on the image we put in the background. So it gets them to see the vision for the brand, because they can't see the things that we're thinking.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We'll leave that for now.
The perfectionist in you is
I know I want to correct it, and I'm thinking time in here now. Is this what people want to see, or shall I move on to the next bit? So
oh no, absolutely, go for it. We want to see your process. We want to see how much of an OCD.
That's it. This is like nice little techniques, like bringing that flow down and just adding a bit of shadow on the side.
That's a nice touch.
Bringing the opacity down.
Yeah.
So you can see, we've got this mark in. We've darkened the background, give focus to the individual, whatever that is in the center. Try and bring as much focus to that. So it's a great way to add an overlay of color, change the blend mode to multiply, lower the opacity. Now it allows that subject to really pop, and it allows your brand colors to to speak more volumes, and be really clear. And again, just doing this and experimenting with your mark, really stretching it massive and over images, you start to say to yourself, okay, well, how much does this reaffirm any more of the message? And yes, it does. And it's moving forward that direction of finding your goal and the direction to get into the end result. So it's a positive, it's a plus. It's something that we can be excited about now, thinking, okay, this is starting to work with these assets that the client one day might want to put out a social post that's celebrating this new app or this new brand, whatever it is they're selling.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that, just changing the opacity of the multiply layer and dimming down the background lays so much emphasis on the subject.
Yeah,
And
yeah, really,
it
really
just
just
creates a
brings
world
them
of
to life.
difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Very cool.
This could be a flyer you were attempting. I try and stay away in the mock-up stages from creating a
Oh,
full
forgot to
flyer
mute.
or creating
Yeah.
any serious details. I'm trying to focus on saying, like, okay, how beautifully can this brand extend across everything? So just focus on showcasing those assets, showcasing that brand mark in all its glory in different ways, because that's the first goal, is to make sure this works. Adding text and adding details and phone details can be good to make them believe in, say, a business card design. But for me, I like to just really focus on how can this brand work on different assets.
Absolutely. So do you just use the mouse, or do you use a tablet or a desktop? What is your setup like?
Just desktop. Yeah. I
Yeah.
use the tablet for just rough sketches. I've got an iPad
Mm-hmm.
Pro.
Yeah.
Traditional pen and paper, I still like that. I still like that process.
Yeah.
But in terms of my design work, it's all on the screen, on desktop. Sorry.
Nice. Yeah. Kiran in the chat is saying graphic looks strong. Kiran is also an editorial designer. So I love that we have this community here that always joins in and talks and chats. Love
Appreciate
it.
it, everyone.
Appreciate you all. Yeah.
You've seen how that supports with taglines, and
Yeah.
this question, is this coming together? Is this creating a mood for the brand?
Yeah. I love that the added gradient at the bottom of the graphic also makes it looks like it's depth, and like the logos on top, and then there's the person, and then there's the background, and then there's a tagline. So it's
Yeah.
like layers. Really love that effect.
Cheers, appreciate it. So if we go to export, save that in there.
Angel says, I don't know how people can design on a small laptop. It's too small for me. Yeah, you get external monitors. That's my thing on a small laptop. But I designed on a small laptop for a long time. When I first was starting out, I was just using the laptop and the trackpad. And everyone was just asking me, how do you draw on a trackpad? That's so hard.
Yeah, I was the same, literally just sitting there doing all the gestures and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But I feel like that has now helped me use the trackpad with my left hand and the mouse with the right.
Crazy.
Carol says that's a good place for the tagline. Yeah.
Let's group this together. So everyone now just this is some, I do social posts like this as well, like called a brand at a glance, where I like to look at all the elements in say like a 9 square grid, because I feel every time I'm working on anything, I want to make sure that I'm not pulling away from everything, and that everything can work as a in synergy with each other. So I want to see this next to this logo. I'm constantly asking myself, check it next to that logo, check it next to this, check it next to that. There's something there's like a, what's the right word I'm looking for? There's something that doesn't align with the other asset that I can think, okay, that doesn't work there. So we shouldn't go that far with that color or that layout. So I'm just trying to always check that the tone of the brand is consistent across all the assets.
Yeah. Very cool. Stuart is saying he likes the way you think, and it's great to see it on a live stream.
Appreciate it, Stuart.
Yes, Stuart was here yesterday for day one as well. Stuart is also based in the UK. Um, so appreciate you joining late at night. Love that it's already coming together, and it kind of reminds me of your feed, and how everything just looks so put together.
Yeah, that's it. Just seeing everything side by side.
Yeah, love that. This is honestly inspiring me to make my feed look better. I'm like, I should do this more often.
So another thing I like to do as well, just taking these social posts and I created like a fake Instagram post if someone was looking at it. And all these things
Yeah.
are helping the client imagine their brand in the real world. It
Hmm.
may just be a mock-up, but actually for them, they're going, okay, I can imagine this going out on social media, and it gives you that belief in the brand.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love this. I love this mock-up as well. I think you have a great eye for choosing the right mock-ups as well, because there are tons and tons of mock-ups out there. And choosing the one that is right for the brand and the messaging that you want to convey is also really important. So while
Absolutely.
you're certainly not taking your time to make every mock-up from scratch, that can be time consuming when you're on a time crunch. I mean, that's always something that you can do, but smart work is greater than hard work.
Love
And
that.
yeah, I use mockups as well, and I make my own mockups as well. But sometimes you just have to think about how much effort you want to do at this stage of the process. And then you
Absolutely.
just like use stock assets.
They really elevate your project, and
Absolutely.
allow people to see, how that, even just simple as how that icon can work in the uh,
Yeah.
in the profile. People would not, the client might not have thought that through. Okay, I see why you've created a simplistic mark. This can really work small as
Yeah.
an icon on Instagram or on social media. This is great. We're getting excited now about how this is applied. We want to help them see it, want to help them
Yeah.
believe in it as quick as possible. Just seeing that person hold this mock-up now, we've
Yeah.
only dropped it into the mock-up, but it still creates such a different appeal when you see it like this compared to just on its own, or not even doing something like this for the client. You could not do something like this and risk not falling in love with the brand, where actually if you show it this way, they can get on board, they can understand how it's going to take their business from here to here, how they can start rolling these social posts out, and get them excited to get this live.
Absolutely. I am seeing a theme though with the mockups. Do you always use monotone mockups, or have you thought this ahead, or is this just the style that you have with all the brands that you create?
Yeah, so with the monochrome, the outside of this, it just allows that brand to focus in,
Yeah.
on that post that's there. uh, I do like with brands as well, if I can, to dominate almost one color, and not,
Yeah.
for the type of brands I work with, I want to say, like, how can we make that our hero color? How can we make that our hero color? That's ours. That's, we're the brand that's in this space that's pink, or we're this
Yeah.
turquoise color. I think we'll find one hero color that they can get behind. It's another element of that simplicity and that easy recognition, much like the type of marks I make and the type of brands that I aspire to create. Like, I think their strengths are in that you can see a color instantly, you can see that mark instantly and go, okay, that's Riser, that's McDonald's. There's just a certain amount of colors used, or one color. And for a business like this, I've taken the approach to stick with the black and the white and the gray subtly, because I feel like if we
Yeah.
want to create energy and emphasize that energy, that full momentum, the Riser, the name, and looking at the images, if we start to integrate more colors than that, I think it lowers the tone. I think connecting with your goals and getting them is a serious thing. It's an exciting thing, and for the type of brand they want to be, I think it's good to have that black and white and that color offset it. So that's my thought process with this business. And sometimes with other businesses,
Lovely.
that there's a similar process there as well. With the Edge, there wasn't a black and white tone, and we did go all in on the purples, the pinks. There was a more of an in-depth color palette there. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's about finding what's right. You might see patterns in your work, but as long as you check on those patterns, that you're not just falling into patterns, because we can do that sometimes, that this
Yeah.
will work for this business, it makes sense, then great, keep working, do what you do best. And sometimes you'll find a space that works best with how you do things, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. Really appreciate you taking the time to explain every single thing in depth. I feel like these streams would be really helpful to watch on replay as well, to like just get a grasp of things. Because you've covered
Absolutely.
so much content in such less time. I feel like I
Yeah,
also might
yeah.
need to go back.
I appreciate that. No, I've really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed explaining it and having you on the live hosting. It's been great. I've really enjoyed it. There's so much
Stuart
we
in the
could,
chat.
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's so much we can touch on with it with this branding subject. It's just the
Yeah,
rabbit holes keep going down. There's further and further. There's so much we can do, and I'm trying to cram as much as I can in the hour and a half each day, and hopefully there's
absolutely.
some value here for people. Just to even just in a
Yeah,
simple phrase about the mock-up, about the benefits of. I know people might know it, but to talk about it and discuss it, maybe there's something I say that makes you think, see it in a different way, and maybe
yeah.
re-emphasize what you already know. There's a lot of stuff I'm touching on today that people might know or not know. So I think it's good to just as a community, as individuals, keep talking these things through. And yeah, fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. So how long does it take for you to have, what's the average turnaround for clients starting from the first initial contact to like full presentation decks and like the final
Yeah, six
deliverables?
6 to 7 weeks. Uh, Depend on my
Yeah.
timeline. Sometimes projects can run smooth. There's lots of projects always up and down. One's
Yeah.
being signed off a lot quicker. One's finished early. One's rarely delayed. We have a time when we're always going to review that work and always meet that deadline. But when we review it, maybe there's a conversation to just, can we see X? So they might be pushed on for another week. So I say 6 to 7 weeks. Sometimes it's earlier. It's never later than that. And then I go through the discovery call week one, reviewing on a second call and going for a bit of more of a strategy call in depth based on these questions, and then
Yeah.
moving on to me then formulating the sketch work, the about the brand, breaking down the words as we spoke about today. Sometimes I'll touch base and say, okay, I'm thinking along these lines. You mentioned these things. I just want to reaffirm and get the clarity that you agree with what we discussed, and I'm on the right page here. You said these things. I'm interested in this aspect of your business. I really believe we could explore this angle. For an example, I
Yeah.
had a client that was a performance brand, and they were the CEO was just constantly talking about that they wanted to be a company that focuses on balance first. Balance in everything in life will then create a stronger performance, where some companies maybe are focused on, it's all about output, all about performance. So when he was talking about balance so much, and this is just a simple word that he kept bringing up, and it was so close to his heart and what he wanted to be about,
Yeah.
we leaned into that word balance throughout everything else, and even down to the symbol. It was designed in a way that represented that pyramid up and top, and everything is perfectly balanced on that pyramid. And these things really help. Again, just he's excited. It's leaning into his true mission. It's informing the direction for the art for me and the design. And these
Yeah.
conversations are vital. You might just hear something and go, okay, that's interesting. And sometimes you formulate your own ideas, like this one here today. Thinking about that step. We haven't got a client here, but I've thought maybe the client would talk about these things in the brief and say, it's about taking that step, helping people get there, get to their goals, reaching them faster. We want to be a lifestyle brand. We want to be exciting. We want to be for a younger audience. We want people that want to get up and reach. We want to be like the brands like Nike, maybe. Okay, well, how do we get that then? How do we get that happy medium spot where we've got a brand that's speaking like a brand full of energy for youth, for still legible, still accessible, still understandable. Anyone of all ages can read these words, can understand it's professional business when they land on the websites, and that's what we're trying to get to with everything we do. We've got so many parameters and so many things the client said, and we're just edging towards them, going, that's too far. Okay, stay in this realm, and then we find a happy spot in the middle, hopefully, that ticks every box. And you put that in your presentation. You say, look, we've listened to what we've said, and I feel like we've touched everything here. That's why I think this is the best mark to go for, and this is the best identity. It's the best way it extends. And fingers crossed, they agree with you and they understand and they're happy, and then you can roll that out into the assets thereafter.
Brilliant. Yeah. I know Dan in the chat was asking about initial proposals, and I know you just touched on that a bit. Dan was asking how many proposals he sent out. I know we talked about that yesterday and today as well. So just one. Do you think sending just one concept also increases and decreases the time of the turnaround time? Does that help for that?
if it's more, so I have like a standard package and process. But if like I said, if it was going to be more a class that is bespoke, and they want me to push outside of my standard packages, say like we really would require 2 concepts to look with, then obviously that would affect the timeline, because we're now doing double the work effectively. Absolutely.
That makes sense. Brilliant. Yeah, we have about 20 minutes to the artist spotlights. I'm really excited to dive into that as well. I love seeing all of this come together, to be honest.
Oh, thanks.
So intriguing.
Yeah, it's great seeing different processes and the way people work. We don't often get to see these smaller steps and behind the scenes, the little nudges and the thought process goes behind it. So it's, every time I've seen a designer or somebody who's willing to open up on social media and do that live stream, I think I'd love to see more of this content. It's the first thing I think is that, like, why can't we see more of this? But I think it's just it's a hard thing for people to do, to almost bare all really and show all the kind of awkward moments and the thinking and the and ahhing and like, is this working? Do I like it? So it's difficult, but if more designers can show their process, we can all move up quicker, and learn quicker. As I think things like this that Adobe are doing and on Behance, it's, just fantastic platforms, are brilliant.
Absolutely. Yeah, to the social media point, I was really curious. How do you come up with, I know you do a lot of tutorials and even on TikTok, which is all short form content. And I've always been intimidated with short form content. How do you stay relevant with like so many creators and influencers making content out there? How do you find what's different and unique about what kind of content you provide?
So how to find my voice on social media? I think it's just you have to again take these steps to find your own voice. It's going to be awkward at the start. You're going to feel uncomfortable, but it's about putting out what you know and accepting who you are at that moment. You're going to look back in 10 years on everything you do and almost slightly cringe and go, okay, that's not where I'm at. That's not where I am now, but it was great for then. And I think that's what stops a lot of people putting content online or even putting their self online. We're too self-critical about ourselves, and actually we need to just accept that everybody starts somewhere. I think we touched on last time, the iPhone 3 was the best phone ever at one point, but now it's the worst phone in comparison today, and they still put that product out. And I think with people, we just see ourselves as the same, put ourselves out and put our content out there that is relevant to us who we are. If you are just a new designer starting out, just go there and start with that storytelling and start telling people you are a new designer. Throw up the camera and just talk to it, share a piece of work, share your knowledge, share a problem that you had on Illustrator. Simple as that. People are looking for others like them that they can relate to and learn from. So just accept that you're going to be where you are, and where you are is fine, and where you are is enough. And actually there's someone out there who's even, let's say, earlier on than you, with no knowledge of what you've got, would love to know those small steps. So start sharing everything if you can.
Appreciate that advice. Very cool.
I think I'm going to move on. I'm going to do this now quickly.
Yeah, I've been asking too many questions.
It's difficult designing and speaking at the same time.
Yeah.
But I've really enjoyed it. The questions are great. No, please keep them coming. They've been fantastic.
Absolutely. There's already a couple of questions that I'm waiting on, because like let's design for a bit. But Angel in the chat is working.
Please.
Wondering if because you know a lot about branding and designing, have you ever considered being a creative director instead of being in a client-facing role?
No, I haven't actually. No. In terms of creative director, you mean working in-house as a creative director?
Yeah, working in-house, and instead of having all the hats in the business.
No, thing is, for me, I find it really rewarding, fulfilling, doing all the roles, and not to say long-term. You don't want to. I might want to start scaling up even more. There's a few people that support me, They certainly don't work for me, but they support me with other aspects, maybe animation or the web stuff, as we talked about. So that's an element of expanding your offering and working broader than what you offer. But I'm not sure if creative director is something I want to do at the moment. You know, I really am I do enjoy the content creation. I enjoy building a bit of a personal brand, if that's what we can call it. But you know, just putting my stuff out there, content out there, growing myself, working with great clients, helping them with their businesses. I'm really enjoying what I'm doing right now. So it's not a never, but right now, no. I think the independent designer working remotely and continuing to refine and strengthen my offering is where I want to put my time right now. Good question.
Perfect. Yeah. I love that we're creating a grid now. Love it.
So it's nice to allow the client to see these.
Yeah. Absolutely. The construction is really important. And even if you're making like a case study for your portfolio, is also really important to show potential clients the process. Because then they have more of an insight into where you're coming from, how you think, and how you actually put that down pen to paper.
Yeah, allow them to see there's method to the madness that you've created. You know, it's not just been a quick decision. All the stuff we talked about yesterday and today, it's good stuff. So there's ways to make a nice professional pitch deck and a presentation that you can sit there and go, look, this is the decisions even down to the simplest thing as the icon. You know, this is why this simple mark here, we can see that just sitting there on the page is actually been created using this grid, and they'll be wowed by it. That, you know, this is a completely alien world to them. You know, you're the expert when you're speaking to the client, even though you might feel the imposter syndrome and I'm not good enough. We all have these thoughts, but actually you're in the position now to guide and start showing how great your thinking is and the things you're doing, because they'll be interested to see it, and they'll believe in the brand even more. And the value you provide, because the value you do provide is phenomenal, really, when you break down the time it takes. So allow people to know what it is you do. You know, you didn't just quickly create a logo. You actually sat there and did all that previous process. And created that mark with precision and with valid reason as well.
Absolutely. So when you were first designing and starting out, how many hours would you say you gave to practicing and learning and upskilling and researching for graphic design? We have a question about that in chat. How many hours a day do you practice?
Oh, in my own time designing?
It
was a lot. It's been a lot. Before, when I had my own, when I worked in house at a company, I would get up ridiculous hours, even 4:30 in the morning, 5:30. Not everybody needs to do that, and working late. I certainly did that. You got to find whether you're an early riser or night owl. But around that job, I found that in the morning is when I could, because I was motivated to learn. I wanted to master, even down to Photoshop. I spent a lot of time in Photoshop and in mastering building logos. I was so keen to get to that, elevate to that. I thought in the morning was when my most energy was there. So I'd get up at 5 o'clock and I'd sit and do 2 hours of work before that job. And that would be creating a social graphic for someone that inspired me, maybe as an athlete or a film poster back then when I first started out. And I had an Instagram account where I was just posting these film posters, these athlete posters, these random logo designs, and allowing Instagram just to say, yes, we love it, or no, we don't. The likes drop, or I'm like, okay, so that didn't work. That was interesting. And people start to reshare these, and that gives you some encouragement to say, like, okay, I'm actually doing all right here. So every day, if you just do 30 minutes each day, is better than 6 hours one day, being burnt out, and then never coming back. You'll find a lot of benefit if you just say, right, lower the constraints today. I'm just going to do 30 minutes. That that constraint of 30 minutes means you can't now overanalyze it. You can't be a perfectionist and let that hold you back. And you've just got to do something in 30 minutes. So just go for it. And you do 30 minutes every day, or even an hour, whatever time you've got. You'll look back you'll look back at the end of the week, end of the month, end of the year, and without a shadow of a doubt, your logos, your Photoshop work will be leaps ahead by consistently showing up. Like anything, it's that consistency. So putting in those small and people can do that, and I think that 30 minutes hour perspective shift on using your time really allows you to progress forward.
Absolutely. That's brilliant advice right here. Brian and Marcos and Dan, all of them are saying that you've motivated them to share their work online and to be outgoing
Oh,
and
brilliant.
network with more people.
Oh,
Yeah,
fantastic. That's great news. Yeah, definitely do it.
absolutely. Yeah. All of the talk has also been really inspiring for me as well. I haven't been posting a lot to social media lately, but now I feel like I should go back and do it again.
I have dips in my social media sometimes. It's just it's hard to keep track of, isn't it? Sometimes keep that
Yeah,
consistency. Actually, with social media, it's very difficult.
absolutely. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Sometimes you're on more on client work and you're
Yeah.
wondering, should I be investing my time in this? And if
If
it's,
yeah,
but I know that social media works great for a lot of people and they get clients off social media as well. So I guess it does pay off in the end.
absolutely. Yeah, and if nothing else, don't think of what comes back. Think about what you gain as an individual.
Yeah.
Has certainly proven itself to myself. Clients will come, but sometimes you
Yeah.
could be hitting social media with content for excuse me, for a good few weeks, and maybe you're just getting a few odd likes, you're not getting any inquiries, but you shouldn't let that stop you. I think
Yeah.
focus on the bigger picture, and people are watching. Most of the clients that have contacted me weren't even liking my work; they were just watching the background for the last few months, and they decided to pick up the phone.
Yeah.
And in reality, as long as you show up, keep putting your work out there,
Yeah.
you allow for these opportunities to come your way. And
Absolutely.
sorry, that I lost my train of thought. Yeah, and you allow yourself to grow as a creative. That's the main take
Yeah.
home, is what you
Yeah.
get out of it as a person.
Yeah.
You're gonna perfect your craft so much better. As I said, showing up more often, creating these passion projects, not waiting for the goal, not waiting for the dream job, creating the work that can get the dream job attracted to you. If you're interested in
Yeah.
working with a certain type of client, create work like that type of client would look at and go, we need that.
Yeah.
Don't wait. Start today.
Absolutely. So do you also enjoy other aspects of creative work like drawing or illustrations? Do you ever use that in any of your brand designs?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Photoshop work is what I do like to work on. I spent a lot of years trying to perfect Photoshop. So high retouching work or manipulation concepts, bringing assets together. I've done a lot of stuff in the
Yeah.
medical industry, creating environments for people that have been on certain medication, and they need to represent a scene of a care home or something. So I'll even find the environments, find the individuals, work on the lighting, adding all the kind of
Yeah.
assets on the table and stuff. So really building these high detailed environments in Photoshop.
Nice.
Okay.
We're almost at the artist spotlight, 7 minutes in
Brilliant.
and artist spotlight. I'm really excited to see their work. Love
Um,
it. So I know we talked about having a bespoke deal or a package design deal with clients, but is there ever a time when people really want a really fast turnaround time? How do you deal with that?
yeah, if there is the fast turnaround, I'm not going to compromise my process for
Yeah.
anything that's unreasonable, because essentially you're not going to be able to do it. There may be a week here or there. They say, okay, I'll look at it and I go, well, that's 5 weeks away. Do I want to get involved with this now based on my workload? Have I got the time available? Can I commit more days in that? Because it's a 7 week process, but essentially, you're looking across that 7 weeks to lock in those days. It's not that it's essentially 7 weeks of full graft, but it certainly
Yeah.
needs 7 weeks to go through that process, even the downtime between these stages that I go through, to allow, like I said, to
Yeah.
come back to the screen, to see your work clearly. Anything rushed, essentially, the things that you can see later down the line that you didn't notice initially. You get fatigue, you get tired working on these projects, you're spending hours crafting multiple assets, trying to find that happy place for them, for this brand to work. So if it's just a little bit, maybe, but I won't ever just completely destroy my process in order to get that project off the ground. I think it does the client a disservice, and it does myself and the product I offer a disservice as well.
Yeah. So have there ever...
Carry on. Yep.
Have there ever been any times when you just dived into Illustrator, did not sketch anything, and just went with an idea that popped into your head?
Maybe in the early years I might have made that error, but
yeah,
it's not the right approach, I find. To do, purely because, again, there's no process behind it, and we're trying to create a unique brand. We're trying to make sure it's right for the client. So you can sit there and have a good idea, but it's probably not the best idea. It's rarely. You might. What will be great to do is log that idea and just bring it into your process. Don't ignore it. If you think that you have come on a genius idea and it's sprung into your head, great. That might be the case, but still do the work that required to justify it. Just to prove yourself right that it is a good idea. Don't just guess it is and hope it is. Dangerous territory then down the line if it doesn't work across other assets and for the client and what they're trying to do.
Ooh, I love that. Ended up giving a texture and a nice movement with the pattern as well.
Yeah, it looks great. Yeah, obviously when we formulated that yesterday, testing with the original mark, I thought it looked great. And this is another process to do with anybody who's got a logo. Look at how you can repeat that mark. You might see this stuff on packaging, wrapping tissue paper inside a product. If that's the type of industry, it might be like this on the back of a business card. You could imagine this embossed slightly, where you could, very tactile, you could rub your fingers across it and feel those grooves to the R. And again, it's about getting the client on board for the brand, getting them excited about doing things like print. And for you as well, seeing this mark. This is a mock-up I've used for so many years and so many projects, purely because when I drop this, one second, when I find the right logo, when I drop this logo in, seeing it in those dynamic angles on the business card, it allows me to see everything in a slightly different perspective. Your logo is going to be slightly warped at a different perspective, and even then you can start seeing things that don't work. So it's great, another test.
Very neat. Look at that. It looks brilliant. I love the pop of color. Really emphasize the whole message.
Yeah, I think it's I think for a brand like this to use it subtly throughout, like if you imagine a website, using that orange, that kind of blood red color on touch, like a certain call to action buttons on the website, on key phrases, so we can keep that black and white gray tone and allow this pop of color just to keep appearing at different points of the website. So it'd be great.
Yeah.
Just going to close this down now. Don't save.
Have you saved though yet?
Yeah, I've not saved this main document yet, but I was purely for the reason I don't want any lag or anything to happen to the computer. So I was almost thinking, okay, if I don't save as long as possible, we can hopefully get through the stream with no hiccups. Yeah. Sometimes Photoshop can be a bit iffy now and again.
The files are too heavy
to the max. Yeah. Great tool. Don't get me wrong, do everything, but when you obviously screen sharing and everything else, I don't know how much my Mac can take.
Yeah, absolutely. I get that. Love it. Everyone in the chat is really loving the business card mockups.
Oh, great.
Cool mockups, spot varnish on the pattern. Lovely. Very, very cool. someone in the chat is asking where we can get the mockups, and I know Tom mentioned it earlier that Adobe Stock and Envato Elements is what Tom uses. So maybe you can head over there and find free mockups. I know
Sure, yeah.
Adobe Stock has a lot of free mockups. I'm not sure if Envato has any free without a subscription.
No, Envato's, yeah, that's paid for, yeah, Envato, yeah. But
Yeah.
there's great ones on Behance. I said yesterday, lots of artists
Yeah.
and brand designers. If you look on their projects, a lot of people will be in the chats going in the comment section going, where can I get this mock-up? And they'll be putting links on there. And yeah, Adobe Stock, Envato Elements, and online there's lots of like my free mockup, my mockup world or mockup world. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's lots out there and they're fantastic. I don't mind if anyone wants to message me on Instagram, on TikTok, LinkedIn, wherever you are, find me. If there's anything you have seen and I've got the mock-up, let me know. I'll maybe help people locate those to download themselves, or help them get onto Envato if that's something, or where on Adobe Stock. There's one that I've seen. There's someone here that I've used on Adobe Stock.
Nice.
So how much time we got now with 9:30?
We have about 25 minutes left in the stream, and it is almost actually it is time for the artist spotlight now. So maybe you can jump into that.
Yeah, sure,
and then come back to your work. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So every time on day 2 at the longer stretch streams, we have the artist spotlight where we highlight a member of our community. We take any of the artists that you guys have submitted to our artist spotlight tab, which is right above chat. So today we have chosen an artist. Let's look at their profile. We have Rafael Ramirez. They're from Mexico and they're a graphic designer. I love that you or someone else submitted your profile. They're a graphic designer with a main focus on branding. And I really love that because it kind of ties in to everything that we're doing today. So why don't we go ahead and look at some of their work and get inspired?
Yeah, fantastic. Let's look at this one up here, the real estate branding.
Yeah, let's look at that.
That's really nice.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I love the geometric and the foil.
There's a delicate aspect to this stuff, kind of seems very detailed. Again, simplistic marks would have certainly been built with the old shape builder tool and using lines. Contemporary and very like high-end premium kind of look to this brand. Absolutely.
I love the color in there as well. The wine and the gold.
Great use of visuals, yeah, and really allowing the through the project to see the world and the environment, this stuff we work in. Really immersive and allows you to believe in this this brand exists. Probably does exist probably as a client, but certainly if it was on the presentation stage, it'd be great for allowing the client to see all this beautiful stuff.
Absolutely.
Great. Should we jump into another one?
Yeah, let's look at it.
This one's standing out with the color palette. I like that.
Yeah, very beach vibes with this one. I love the little palm trees and the hammock there as well.
Yeah, it's really good. Really good use of color. I love the typography. I think this brand designer definitely likes that more premium side of things.
Yeah, very luxury branding with all of them. Serif fonts. Clean.
Really nice mockups. Really nice.
Yeah. I love the uniformity and the cohesiveness between the mockups as well. Like they all look like they're part of one package. Maybe they made them from scratch, but if they did not and they chose it from somewhere and licensed them, then it all seems like they were made by one person, which is something that really ties everything in together.
Yeah, great. Yeah, similar vibe again with the kind of luxury vibe.
Yeah.
But, still using that simplistic marks.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to see that even though there are looks like they're luxury brands, they also have this use of geometric shapes everywhere. Oh, look at that. There's a
nice
pattern.
Yeah, great. Really great.
I love these. These are all really well done.
Yeah, it's inspiring to see just the use of just plain imagery is quite an interesting one for myself to see that, not having the brand touch it, but actually just using color to complement these mock-ups, which is a good idea. The brand's not always seen, but it definitely creates a good overall picture of the brand.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, these are great.
Love that. Let's look at the logo folio as well later.
Yeah, let's jump
Juice
on
and
that.
joy. Yeah. I love that. Mom.
Yeah, very, very simple. Yeah, this one at the top here, very simple, but works
it says
great.
it's a health brand on the bottom left, and I'll know the rounded text on it kind of makes it more approachable.
Yeah, yeah, it's softer, it's kinder,
Yeah.
isn't it? It's
Yeah.
yeah, great. A little bit
Very,
of
very.
slicing into the type,
Yeah.
just to kind of mirror those kind of the shadow, kind of abstract shadow marks on the mark above.
Yeah. Oh, this is different. This is different from the usual logos and style.
Be interesting if if that was external,
Yeah.
someone helping with the illustrations, or if that's part of it. That is something different if you compare it to the
Yeah.
other work seen.
Yeah. Oh, I love these kind of logos where you see like negative space and all of that really acting into the design.
Yeah, that's a good one with the palm trees. Just that
Yeah.
happy smile in the middle of it, kind of
Yeah.
subtly as well.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah, really playful, but smart, professional, premium. Still really
Yeah.
creative. Yeah, I really like that one. Interesting type brand.
Yeah. Music. Okay. I love that they have the presentation of the case studies are also really good, because I see that they're the industry or the domain that the brand is about. Because sometimes we can be intimidated by putting all the work out there in the form of logo folios, and we just don't put any detail about the brand itself. So I love that we have some sort of information attached to it, because I feel like that's something that we really need to put in when we're showcasing projects to potential clients or even otherwise.
Yeah, having that context of where it's for and where it's going to be applied. But yeah, I agree with this, with the logo folio, just to see these, let the logo mark and the type stand out now, and nothing interrupting it. It's a nice contrast to the nice mockups we do for clients and for our own portfolio. It's good to just see all your logos together like this. I'm inspired to maybe do something myself where my Behance and lay out some of my brands in this way. It's great. Yeah, it's really good.
Absolutely.
And it's a great snapshot for somebody if they were a client looking to see these so quickly. In a snapshot now, we've got a good image of the type of brand designer, the versatility they've got, what they can achieve. Yeah, it's great. Really nice stuff.
Very, very cool. Yeah. Thank you so much, Rafael, for sharing your work with us. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. We had a lot of good time looking at all of the projects, all of the fun geometric logos, and your unique style has really contributed to the stream today. Thank you so much for submitting your work. And if you're watching this all live or on replay, don't forget to submit your recommendations for creatives to highlight for our next artist spotlight. It's right above the chat in the Behance chat. Yeah. So don't forget to do that, and maybe we can highlight your work in the future stream. Let's jump back into what we're doing and give Rafael a follow.
I was going to say, I was just going to give him a quick follow as well myself while we're here as well. So it's great work. Yeah, inspiring stuff. Really good stuff.
Yeah, they're also on Instagram and Facebook, so don't forget to check out their work there as well. And now let's jump back into Illustrator and what we're designing. We have about 18-ish minutes left in the stream.
Great. Just going to, we're nearly there now.
Yeah. Very cool.
Building up to just like an overview of allowing us like at a glance to see this brand and see everything side by side, even just a quick mock-up of how it would look on print, on a slant, on the social post, allowing that grid to speak and to work with the client, seeing that brand pattern on the back of the business card, how it could work on a social post, full monochrome color used with pure white logo. So it's versatile again to work on that color. That could be on a hero banner on a website, anywhere.
Yeah.
And now, just going to... and this is just these are type of social posts I will put out on my Instagram, and there's something close to this that I do for the end of every presentation. In a presentation, I'll have gone through the reasons behind the business, why we're doing what we do. And there would be a similar page to this at the end and at the start, almost like an overview one to them to see at first glance and go, wow, okay, what have you done here? I like them to just see that quick overview and then go into the process about, okay, why did I do this? Why have I got the responsive logos, the different types of logos we've got? And then end on this as well, again, as a reminder, look at it all in all its glory. And I think in your presentations, you want to guide them through that process. Because if you just start, say, sometimes, this is from my own experience with just, say, the one logo, it can be underwhelming at the first glance for a client to just see a logo on a page. I think if we can just start off with our presentations with a bit about, obviously, the background, the strategy call, the discovery call, and then go into a big, this is the showcase, what do you think? It's a shock for them to see that first glance at in all its glory, but it's always a positive one. They're like, wow, okay, this is interesting. Okay, now let me go into explain it. So I like to open after the kind of initial under the hood work, but look at this as an overview and then move into the detailed stuff about why the mark was like this. We've got all these assets to play with now. We've got responsive versions.
Love that. Yeah. Joseph in the chat has a question. Have you got a favorite specific part of a brand to design? Logos, flyers, posters, print work, clothing, etc. Yeah, we touched on that yesterday, but please feel free to go ahead and give us a brief answer to that.
Is that Joe Hickey, is it?
Joseph Hickey.
Yeah, I know Joe. Joe's great. Yeah, Joe's a videographer.
Nice.
What is the best part of my process?
What is your favorite specific part of a brand to design? Is it logos, flyers, posters, print work, or clothing?
Focusing on that logo, focusing on that mark, because then once that's done, then everything else can fall into place. So it's certainly the mark, and then I love just seeing how it unfolds into those creative assets like social posts and other assets, because it's just great to see that once you formulate a mark and you believe in it, that okay, now I can start to see it come to life.
Yeah.
So in my document, I like to just break down some of the swatch colors for the brand. So at a glance, the client can start to see, okay, these are the colors we can start to use for our business.
Yeah.
And you want them to understand that you've got everything covered. These are simple things for yourself, and you think, well, do they want to see the swatch code? But for some clients, they might not be aware of what that is, or is that something they need, or is that something they've got access to? So it's another level of reassurance. You're just saying, okay, look, these are your color codes, and then for them seeing this on the deck, on the presentation, is not just the color, but the code itself, which again, as I said, is something small, but it's allowing them to feel, okay, look, we've got the tools we need to use our brand. We have control of it. We're not. We're given the type of typography that supports it, the color codes, the way it's built, and hopefully then they can go away and do whatever they want with their business with the confidence and clarity to move forward.
Yeah. Love that. I really am amazed and fascinated by how quickly this all has come together, to be honest.
Oh, thank you. Yes, it's come across great. And I think so have great everyone's questions on the stream. And when we came to this bit of modifying the icon, it's interesting to see that happen. And it's always interesting to see where a brand can go from those sketches. And it's all a process. It's all about elimination and testing. Really great. One thing I did do off screen, off the stream since yesterday was nothing to do with in terms of touching the brand, but I have a mock-up that I was preparing for today, and it was a 3D mock-up. So to render this was nearly smoking my Mac out. So I thought the safest thing to do was to render this now. So the reason I want to put this in, I suppose it's essential doing no matter whatever business you're doing, like the mock-ups of the design we showed before, try and keep them relative to the business that they're for. So this is going to be an app that's for people to download and work with. maybe should resize that first.
That's
This.
crazy. That's insane. I love this mock-up. Did you say you made this in Photoshop?
No. This is a downloadable mock-up, but it's such a large
Oh,
file.
interesting.
It has to render the 3D.
Yeah.
But to save that delay of the lag of the stream saving, it's best to prepare before we come on.
Absolutely.
But it's great to have these type of mock-ups in there. If that's related to your business, the type of client you're working with, have them in there, because again, you're allowing them now to see. You see that product in all its glory and the type of things they're hoping to achieve once they go live with this brand.
Love it. Yeah. I love that every single color is also in variation and alternative over here in this grid as well, which kind of ties everything into this simplistic approach of our brand as well.
Absolutely.
So how do you decide with what you want to pick in this grid? Like, is this a set format you use for all the brands that you create, or do you just play it by ear for every single?
It's flexible. I certainly want to always. This is inspired by a social post that I do on Instagram after I've created the identities. There's things of this in a more of a wider landscape pitch deck where I'll have a whole page based on the grid and a small rationale breaking down that this represents speed, momentum moving forward. But this is a snapshot on here for you guys to see in this stream. But when it comes to each one in the tile or in the proposal that I send a client, it really depends on the business. As I said, if I was working for a company that needed to have vehicles wrapped, there might be a vehicle wrap in there. I really want to over deliver and make sure they're excited and it's actually solving or a problem or creating at least a vision for what they're hoping to achieve in the future. So for this, if they were a company Rise and they were maybe at the early startup stages, maybe they've got no brand, maybe the app is live, or maybe they're going to start this app and they're going to say at some point they're going to want an app icon anyway. So why not let them know that this is going to work on the app icon, source a 3D mock-up of that, and then they can look at that and go, wow, there's our app essentially ready to go on an app icon. We're really excited to get this live now, and just elevates that product, elevates the branding that you supply them at the end.
Absolutely. Love it. We have about 10 minutes left in the stream. So if you have any last minute questions for Tom here, let us know. Stuart says, I can see the word run in the pattern. Very cool. Yeah, it's an illusion. I can also see it. Right when Stuart mentioned it. It's like your brain works that way. If someone mentions that, hey, it looks like that. And it does look like it.
Great. I suppose that works. So perfect.
Yeah, it's brilliant though. You would think that this is a happy accident, but this is just all your experience and working with brands like these and creating something that is really inspiring and speaking to the vision board, making you create subconsciously what we're seeing here. Yeah. Love that. I would honestly never put the logo upside down in a pattern, but you've really inspired me today to look at it from a different perspective.
So I think it's just as a challenge, just to in that process, just seeing if it works upside down is a good enough reason to do it. And then sometimes it creates our dynamic patterns and something unique that you wouldn't normally have seen before. Sometimes it doesn't work, or it does. It's just it's a good trial and error, and you can be amazed what you can come up with. Sometimes you need to do something more bespoke. Time wouldn't allow that today, and it wasn't where I wanted to put my focus. But I've done massive text word brand patterns for Jimmy John. It was about, they had so many qualities and messages as a company. So I sat down and sketched out every single word, like inspiration and community and support, and created a brand pattern of illustrated text. And then I brought that into Illustrator, then added different typography over it and made this kind of like this pattern of words that then could create and evoke an energy for when people open their products or their clothing or their items of their skateboards that they sell. They'd see this brand pattern of words that was saying happiness and support and community and being together. So it was evoking all those qualities of a brand. So that's one element of a brand pattern. I've done a post on my Instagram saying about different types of brand patterns. I don't know is it okay to just bring that up quickly?
Absolutely, yeah. Once we're almost at time
Yep.
for a quick recap, we'll have about 2 minutes for the recap, 2 or 3 minutes, and then we can just say goodbye to everyone and thank you for
Fantastic.
joining.
Thanks for joining, everybody. Yeah, so just looking at brand patterns and how they extend, and looking at the step and repeat, sort of like a modified one of the logo, and how you can use it back to back in a different way. Word patterns, this is what I just touched on with Jimmy John, and just using different words on the skateboard or on other assets. So that's another type of pattern. Or even creating custom shapes. For this brand, The Edge, we didn't want to use the logo mark as the brand pattern. It's in elements, but we're almost creating little touch points of patterns to accompany all these social posts. Or your traditional one, where, as we've seen today, where you can connect your logo. So on the left here was for a company called Subspace, and they were about connecting creators with their followers closely. So obviously the logo is formulated with this circle to circle. There's also a connector which creates the SS for Subspace. But as a brand pattern, it's actually creating this idea of millions of people connected. And it's the same for Collab Sports. The idea of loads of practitioners are together on the right. These brand patterns are now saying more about the business. So brand patterns can be a fantastic tool to just elevate your brand, elevate the message, allow that visibility of the brand to be seen on other things. Just clear a way for people to see that brand and recognize it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think we're about there for this.
Yeah, we have about 2 more minutes that you can work on it, and then we can do the recap. So how do you typically share your files with clients once they approve? Do you send them for review? Do you get on a call with them?
We jump on a call, a plan a discovery call, and then I go through the presentation from start to finish, reviewing obviously what we discussed, then looking through each mock-up, breaking down each asset, and then showing basically what the tools we can do and what we've got to play with now. If we get the green light and we're happy to go ahead, this is what we can do now, and these are the assets I will provide you with, the mini guidelines that goes with it. I always provide a small style guidelines, kind of the standard things they need to, if they want to work for another designer or in-house or with me long-term, fantastic. But I want to make sure they've got the control they need to work with their business, work with their brand. So many guidelines, the assets, the asset folders, all the file types, and present that in a deck, listen to feedback, and hopefully get the green light to just get that signed off, finish off the guidelines in the asset folder, or make any slight amends if there are any, or any other ideas they want to see clearly in the presentation.
Absolutely. Yeah. Incredible advice. Why don't you give us a quick recap of day 2 here, and then we can say our goodbyes and thank yous.
Yeah, fantastic. So today, closing off on day 1, we've created a logo mark, had that overlaying the social post to finish off. And today we wanted to look at, okay, have we got responsive versions for this logo? Have we got other alternate versions that we can use for the client? How can this work? Position next to your tagline underneath. What's the alignment issues next to that symbol? Do they work next to each other correctly? Refining that, then moving on to color. Looking at the blend tool, how we can create color palettes in there. Using actual assets is a good way to inspire your decision making. If there's multiple approaches, there's just one approach that can really create a uniqueness, because we are looking at those raw assets and we're looking at those raw environments for that type of business, and then using the eyedropper tool and the blend tool to create our own color palettes. We then keep formulating those palettes, seeing what works, what doesn't work, tweaking the color tones. Once we're happy, we need to make sure that we're working for, gradients are great, but they need to work when they're appropriate. Let's get ourselves a monochrome color that can work for the brand, getting that guaranteed, defining that, and then looking now how we can bring those into the assets. And brand extension, how extendable is your brand? How does it extend on different touch points? Let's let the client, let's let whoever we're presenting this to see how this can extend. And in that process of testing how it extends, you start to see other creative ways that it sells a business, whether that's through the journey of getting your goal, as we've seen here, how that brand pattern can add to the back of the business card. What would that feel, tactile on the back, embossed, or with a slight gloss print on it? These are things that get the client excited and allowing them to really see how this will work in the future. And whatever the business is based on, if this is an app, let's show that as an app icon. Let's show it on a phone for someone on a social post. Tailoring those mockups to the industry and the type of client you work for.
Brilliant. Yeah. I love all the mockups that you've created in such a short span of time. We had about 90 minutes overall to talk about mockups and all of the brand strategy that we've talked about. And I really appreciate you sharing all your knowledge and years worth of experience with us. How did you like your experience, and where can people follow you for future content?
Yeah, please, follow me on Instagram, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great platform. I'm really active on there. LinkedIn every day, Instagram, and TikTok is a new platform been on for the last year and a half. But if people are on TikTok, come on there with some kind of short videos, some fun videos, brand related stuff, logo related stuff, and please connect on Behance. I'm going to start to update my Behance shortly with some new projects. So that's where you'll see some of my portfolio work first, probably on Behance. Before it is on Instagram. So please connect everywhere, and hopefully chat to me on the DM and get to know everybody that's been on the stream. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a pleasure, Tom, having you here on Adobe Live, both on day 1 and 2. If you're in the chat and live, thank you so much for joining us and asking all the wonderful questions. If you're watching this on replay, thank you for watching the replay. And I hope you watch the rest of the programming here on Adobe Live as well. We will be back tomorrow with our evangelists for a full day of masterclasses, followed by a new episode of Office Hours with Andrea Hawkradle and Nick Longo. But meanwhile, make sure to watch the rest of the creators also on Adobe Live and Behance. And make sure to give Tom a follow everywhere, all TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Behance, everywhere you can.
Fantastic. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me, Annika. Brill.
Yeah, for sure. I will say bye for now, and hope you guys take care, stay safe, and stay creative. Bye for now.
Thanks, guys. See you soon.